Hi everyone, welcome to Reading by the Rainy Mountain. My name is Varsha and this is a channel where I love to talk about my favorite books. So I've been hanging out on the page chewing forum a lot and I've signed up for several read-alongs or reading discussions or discussion groups, however you want to call it. And so I find myself yet again in the year or so since I have started this channel with a TBR on my hands. So for context, I am never able to make a plan about what to read and really stick to it unless, as it turns out, I have scheduled discussions with it. In that case, I will read it no matter how it's going or what else I want to read instead. So that's not to say I don't enjoy the books that I have discussion groups on. It's just sometimes I'll make up my mind that I'll pick something up and then I won't be in the mood for it. I'd want to come back to it later. But instead of allowing myself to hop around like that, I stick to what I started because I have to make the reading in time for the discussions that we may have scheduled. So for that reason, today I find myself with a TBR on my hands. So I thought I'd share it with the world and also use it as an excuse to provide some channel updates and also announce some potential read-alongs that hopefully anyone watching this channel would like to participate in and join us on the discussions, whether in the comments or on the page chewing forum itself. So here we go. And yeah, some of these discussions are not born out of the page chewing forum group. There are some that are with other groups besides, but this is what I have. Just pretty much everything on this list I have a scheduled discussion for. So we'll start there and then we'll do a few channel updates towards the end for anyone who's still interested to stick around for that. So starting with the Sandman series, which I was on an episode of Dear Dr. Fantasy late last year, and at that time I had asked Dr. Philip Chase if he'd be interested in reading the series with me. And yeah, we finally got around to scheduling it. We've got the first discussion planned for later this month, and we are reading the 9-volume version I am reading the 9-volume version, but what that means is we'll break it up into about 9 discussions, I think, but we'll see how the first one goes and see if we need to combine further than just 1 volume, which was approximating 8 issues. I think it's called Preludes and Nocturnes. I'll put the cover up on the screen somewhere. And yeah, so that's what we're starting with, and we'll cover the entirety of the series as we go. I'm really excited for that. It will be a reread for me. I loved the series the first time around, but I read it way too fast. I borrowed all 9 volumes from the library in one shot, and I had to read them all before the due date. I read them, I enjoyed them a lot, but I did not give myself time to really absorb the material, so I'm excited for this reread. And also I had read it over 10 years ago, so I forgot everything. I forgot everything pretty early after reading it because of how I read it, but also now I want to watch the show and I want to remember what happens in the novels and the graphic novels before I watch the show for the first time. I do also, in the fullness of time, plan to listen to the audiobooks because that, I think it has a full cast production, and I'm really curious to see how they've converted a graphic novel into audiobook form. So I'm going to check that out as well. Maybe listen to that one with my husband during our daily commute, and that should be fun. So yeah, I'm excited to consume a lot of Sandman content in the upcoming months. The next one on the list is Perdido Street Station. So Angela of Do Unicorns Read announced a read-along for Perdido Street Station earlier this year, and I don't know if it's okay for me to say this yet, but at some point I'm going to be reading along with her. The dates, etc., I let Angela announce, but I'm planning for the read along of Perdido Street Station in the next couple of months. Gardens of the Moon. So if you have been watching my channel, you probably know that I have been working my way through the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I am currently on the 9th book of the series, and I have 100 pages left in the Tor trade paperback editions. I believe it ends on a cliffhanger, so I will go straight to reading The Crippled God. I am anticipating being able to finish The Crippled God by the end of August. I mean, that's a really ambitious goal given how long it usually takes me to read a Malazan book, but I have been finding Dust of Dreams to be the easiest to read Malazan book for of all the ones I've read so far. I have a few theories about why that is, but in any case, I am able to read faster than I usually do for a Malazan book, and by faster I mean with fewer breaks between reading sessions. So I'm going to finish that, and I also want to really put myself on a timeline for this, because a few folks on the Page Chewing forum have decided to get together and read this series together and discuss them a few chapters at a time, like we have been doing for the Wars of Light and Shadow series, which I'll talk about in just a second. So I think we're planning to start sometime in September. The dates are not finalized yet. I have been postponing starting threads on the forum to discuss dates because I am waiting to finish at least Dust of Dreams so that I have a firmer timescale on which I know I'll finish The Crippled God. So anyway, in any case, that's happening in sometime September. I may have also roped in my husband to read this series with me, and if he does manage to read it along with me, I think we may have a discussion group there, just the two of us as well. We've got plans for that. We're talking about it and fleshing out some details, but I'm really eager for him to check out the series too. It's my favorite series of all time, and I would love for him to read it with me and experience the world with me and Erikson's writing and be able to talk about it with him. So I'm really excited for that, and hopefully if any of you watching this are interested in reading the series along with us or discussing as you go along, please check out the Page Chewing forum. That's where we do all the scheduling and planning for all these reading groups, and that's going to be a recurring theme, so I'll just say this the one time in this video. All the ones that I'm going to mention following this, well, except for one, are because of talking to folks on the Page Chewing forum, and that's where we do all our planning, and the discussions that are scheduled there are sort of in RSVP format. So if you'd like to read and join for a discussion group, all you have to do is sign up on the forum and then go check out the calendar for the events and RSVP, join the discussion. The live stream or StreamYard links are shared to whoever wants to attend. So if you'd like to read these with us and talk about it with us, if you're camera shy, we can chat on the forum itself. We can do audio only discussions. There's so many options. So yeah, do consider checking out the Page Chewing forum. It's a great place. I spend enormous amounts of time on it every day, and I love it. There's so many interesting threads there, so many interesting discussions besides books as well, and also there's a writer's battleground that I am using to try my hand at writing. It's been fantastic. I love the Page Chewing forum, and I'd love to see you there if you're interested in reading any of these series, or starting buddy reads of your own, or just to come hang out with us on the forum. So that's that about the Malazan read along. Of course, also what goes without saying is the Gardens of the Moon is coming up sometime in September, but until then, I'll be working my way through Dust of Dreams and The Crippled God. I have also finally figured out how to make the Malazan videos that I want to make. I know I haven't made one since the last one about Anomander Rig, but I'll get there too when I talk about the channel announcements later. The next one on this list is the Prince of Nothing series. Steve over from Steve Talks Books has finished reading the series with a group of folks, and I believe he's posted the discussions on his channel and in the form of a podcast, and he plans to reread the series again, and I've been wanting to read the series, and this one seems to be one of those that lends itself to a great deal of discussion, and I'd love to participate, so I am going to be reading with him. We're planning to read about 50 to 100 pages. I don't know what the scale is, because I know several people are in all of these reading groups that I'm mentioning, so I can average maybe 300 to 500 pages a week on a good week. So whatever reading pace brings us to this total among all the discussion groups, I think is what we will pick. I think it might be about 100-ish pages a week for discussion. And I'm not sure yet of what the frequency of discussions will be for most of these. Again, Gardens of the Moon, and like for Malazan Book of the Fallen and Prince of Nothing, we'll probably do weekly or bi-weekly discussions. That should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that one as well. And then Rocannon's World. So again, Angela from over at Do Unicorns Read made a video about the Ursula Le Guin project. I have read The Wizard of Earthsea by Le Guin. I loved it. Tehanu is my favorite book, and I've seen a lot of recent discussions on the Earthsea series in which people love Tehanu as well. So anyway, I want to reread that series at some point, but also I'm not entirely sure what order Angela's planning to read Le Guin's books in. Perhaps it's publication order, but it seems to be a reasonable pace of one a month. And I'd like to read along with her and maybe, have a few discussions with her as well. So Rocannon's World is the first one that she's already read and put up a video about, that I'm waiting to watch the spoiler section of. The non-spoiler section is great. I really enjoyed it. I'll post a link to it in the description if you'd like to check it out as well. And so I'm going to be reading Rocannon's World sometime in the next month or so, and maybe read on in Le Guin's Hainish cycle. I haven't read any of her sci-fi yet. I think apart from The Wizard of Earthsea, the only thing I've read by Ursula Le Guin is a short story, the Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. And I have started the second short story in that collection called Semli's Necklace, but I never got around to finishing it. I don't know why. I was really enjoying that short story. I don't know why I didn't go back to finish it, but it is also the beginning of this book, that short story. So yeah, two birds with one stone. I'm going to be finishing that short story finally, and also reading this book. It's pretty short, so it'll be a good break between all of these other bulky volumes. And then, of course, we're going to be reading... it's a reread for some folks on the forum, but my first time checking this author and series out. Manifest Delusions by Michael R. Fletcher. The first book is Beyond Redemption, and we are once again reading about 100 pages a week. The first book is 500 pages long. The other 2 or 3, I don't know if one of the books in the series is sort of a 1.5 or 2.5 situation, or if it's 3 books already and the 4th book is coming out. In any case, the final volume is coming out later this year, and so we're reading this together leading up to the release and discussing them on Steve's podcast. I believe it's going to be hosted on the Page Chewing podcast, but when I know more about where it's going to be posted, I will post links in the description. And then P.L. Stewart's book, Drowned Kingdom. I've been wanting to read this for the longest time. Jared, who's of the Fantasy Thinker channel, who's also in the Wars of Light and Shadow discussion group, he made a video about it recently, and it seems he really enjoyed it. Chris Mohan, also in the Wars of Light and Shadow reading group, is partway through it. I want to read it so I can discuss it with them. So sometime in the next month or so, I plan to read this book as well. So the first few books that I mentioned, I say I want to read these books this coming month, but really we're reading at about 100 pages or less a week. That's the average pace for most of these. So many of these are over 500 pages long. So we're going to be reading them over multiple months. So I'm not going to be reading 9 500-page books. That's just not a pace I can keep up with. But because it's just about 100 pages each week for all of these books, I have been able to keep up. And I have to be careful to not sign up for more groups, no matter how tempting it might be. So Drowned Kingdom coming up. I think the third book came out earlier this year, so I'm excited to check the series out. I've heard great things about it, and everyone speaks very highly of it. Whoever's read it, whose opinions I respect quite a lot. So I'm going to be reading it and hopefully discussing it with some friends. And I mentioned the Wars of Light and Shadow reading groups multiple times. So we've been working our way through this, like with many of the others. This is a group that's been in progress for a few months now. We just finished talking about the second book, Ships of Meteor, and are starting discussions for the third book, War Host of Vastmark. Hey, I said it without breaking up. This one feels like a bit of a tongue twister to me. I'm never able to say the title right. So anyway, War Host of Vastmark. We are reading 3 chapters every 2 weeks and meeting to discuss them on Sundays. We normally post the videos later in the week, sometime Tuesday or Wednesday. The videos go up on Jared's channel, my channel, and Robin's channel whenever she joins the discussion, and Steve's channel whenever he joins the discussion. So look out, all fantastic booktube channels. Do check these discussions out there. Consider participating in the discussions with us. They are fantastic. Jani Words is finishing up the series. I believe the final book is ready for publication. The pre-orders go up sometime in September. For the last book, it's called Song of Mysteries. It's a great time to be reading the series because we can read it through to the conclusion. And we've been really enjoying it so far. The reading group's been a fantastic experience. One of the reasons why I feel so tempted anytime a group discussion is proposed. I enjoy them so much, and I sign up for any that I feel like I can manage. And finally, there's a read-along that I am running called, once again, the planning's happening on the Page Chewing Forum, but we are reading the SF Masterworks in the order they were published as Masterworks, not in the publication order of the actual books, but in the order of their publication as Masterworks. The first one in this series is The Forever War, which we actually recorded a discussion for earlier this morning. We'll post it later in the week. And the next book is I Am Legend. We're reading one a month, as long as the book that we're reading is less than 300 pages long. If it is longer than that, if it's much longer, for instance 600 pages, we'll consider breaking it up into multiple discussions. Most of the time they tend to be bind-ups of multiple books or collections of short stories, so they would lend themselves to splitting up that way for discussion. But we'll play it by ear. We'll see if there's a 400-page book, for instance. Maybe we won't break it up into multiple discussions, but for the most part, these are short reads, and we plan to get through them one a month. So that's everything I have planned. And in terms of channel updates, I don't have a lot. It's just that I haven't been making a lot of solo discussion videos, like solo review, or I never call them reviews, but any discussion videos about individual books. I haven't been recording them. I don't do TBR, so of course you haven't seen any of those. I might potentially start doing TBRs if this reading group thing keeps up, because it's nice to have more people on the reading group, so I'd like to put the announcements out there that you can join us on the discussion groups. But also, this is some structure to my reading that I can make TBRs about, because that's popular booktube fare, and they're fun to make. They're quick and they're fun to make, so I might do that. And then finally, in terms of how I talk about my favorite books, the discussion groups, of course. For most of these, we put up discussions on multiple channels, including mine. So you'll see mostly long form content on the channel going forward. But the other way is through text analysis. So I'm starting a new discussion series. Like, it'll be solo. I don't have people that I'm inviting yet for this, but I'm starting a new series on my channel. I'll post the announcement for it later this week. And I think that's the format in which I'd like to talk about my favorite books. So keep an eye out for that. If that's interesting to you, do consider checking out those long form discussions. I am also posting those series as a podcast, just so I can fan out and try to gain audience, more of an audience that likes long form content, even though I know BookTube has both long form and short form content. So I am expecting some audience on YouTube, but I'm also trying to fan out and get more, just so I can stay motivated to keep making those series videos or episodes. So that's everything from me. Keep an eye out for the discussion on the Forever War. Consider joining us for any of these read-alongs and participating in the discussions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.